Hi, and welcome to the Access Direct Opening Bell, your essential pre-market podcast. In just minutes, get key global updates, overnight trends, and market-moving factors that set the tone for the day. Whether you're a seasoned trader or just someone tracking the markets, this is your go-to briefing to stay ahead at all times. So let's dive straight in. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, and we will start with US stocks, which suffered notable declines on Friday as President Trump's tariff announcements erased more than $5 trillion in the space of two trading sessions. The S&P 500 finished 6% down in what was its biggest such fall since the COVID crash, while the Nasdaq 100 dropped 6.1% and entered a bear market, having fallen over 20% from its record high. Meanwhile, Fed Chair Powell said that the announcements could have a persistent impact on inflation, even as the president said that now might be a good time for the Fed to consider lowering policy rates. Fears of a coming recession have escalated after China imposed 34% tariffs on all American imports starting April 10th, after Trump stated that his policies never change. In other markets, the VIX closed around 45, the highest since 2020. The dollar rallied on safe haven demand, even as the US 10-year dropped to a 6-month low of 3.85% before recovering. Bitcoin continued to hold about $80,000. Gold suffered its biggest daily drop since November, while crude declined 7.4%, which was the most since July 2022. Coming home, the rupee rose and settled at 85.23, gaining for the third straight week. That was its longest winning run since August. Going forward, strategists are of the view that the overall trend for the rupee will be a function of what the Asia currency basket does against the dollar. On to domestic stocks now, and the Nifty fell 345 points to finish the day at 22,905, while the India VIX rose 0.16 points in what was a muted response. The NSE 500 small cap and mid cap indexes underperformed the Nifty as they fell more. 10 of the 12 NSE sectors fell, with metals dropping 6.6%, while financial services rose 0.2%. Breadth for the NSE 500 suffered what was a downside thrust day, with 92% of its members sinking. Elsewhere, the best and worst performers on the Nifty were Tata Consumer Products, which rose 1.6%, and Tata Steel, which dropped 8.6%. Expectations for the day are for the market to open weak, given the downside witnessed in US stocks, and the GIFT Nifty already down 800 points, so the odds are significantly high that we will drop below the key 22,677 level. Should that happen, it will mean that the entire recovery from the March lows to the 23,869 highs was a classic bear market squeeze. That would then make the March lows vulnerable in the coming days. For the forthcoming session, support lies in the 22,258 to 22,314 area, and then at 21,964. On the upside, 23,000 is immediate resistance, followed by 23,207. Speaking flows, provisional data show that foreigners withdrew 3,500 crores on Friday. The month-to-date outflow now stands at 13,700 crores. On to derivatives, and the Nifty's put-call ratio fell to 0.74 from 1.12, while that of the Bank Nifty went from 1.02 to 0.97. Nifty calls added were much more than the addition that was seen in puts, and implied volatility fell 65 basis points, which meant that on a net basis, people created bearish bets. Looking at options concentration for the weekly contract that expires on 9th April, the trackable range is 22,500 to 23,200, with notable additions seen at the 22,500 put strike and an even larger increase in open interest at the 23,000 call strike. For the same expiration, volatility traders also ended the session with a bearish view. Speaking net index options activity, foreigners and proprietary traders were bearish, while retail investors were bullish. Elsewhere, foreigners' net shorts in index futures rose by 13,000 contracts to 86,000 contracts, showing increased bearish positioning. Looking forward to today's session, the GIFT Nifty opened 1,000 points down, but had recovered somewhat at 6:45 a.m. and was down 860 points. Asian markets were a sea of red, led by Japan, which was down over 7%. US index futures were down again by an average of 3.5%. Coming to stocks, Federal Bank, SBI Life and Sun TV were at horizontal support, while IRCTC, IRFC and Trident were at horizontal resistance. Chemplast and Divi's Labs were at trendline support, while Adani Green, JMDC and Pidilite were at trendline resistance. Talking bread, 47%, 26%, and 20% of stocks in the NSE 500 were above your 50, 100, and 200-day averages. That wraps up the day's podcast. Please note that this podcast serves solely for informational purposes and should not be considered financial advice of any kind. For a comprehensive disclaimer, please visit our website. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow at the same hour. Good day and take care.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.